Charlotte is about to make a choice that could change everything, and I don't think she's ready for it. Daniel just found out that the end of the world is coming, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. Somewhere out in the wasteland, Lucas and Patrick Kennedy are still alive, walking straight into whatever is waiting for them inside Silo 17. And back in Silo 18, Camille just turned on her own husband. Every single storyline in Silo Season 3 is about to collide, and Episode 8 might be the moment it all breaks open. So let's get into it. Here is Silo Season 3 Episode 8, Grey Goo, Theories Explained. Before we even get into the plot, I want to talk about the title itself, because I think it's the biggest clue we've been given all season. Grey Goo isn't just a random name. It's actually a real term used in science to describe a nightmare scenario where tiny, self-replicating machines lose control and start consuming everything around them, turning matter into more of themselves until there's nothing left. If that's really what this episode is naming itself after, then I think we're finally getting close to the truth about what ends the world in this story. Remember back at the start of the season when Charlotte was on that mission and things went horribly wrong inside the plane? She touched something, and it turned into this strange, gray, almost liquid substance that spread and consumed whatever it touched. At the time, it felt like a throwaway horror moment, something strange to make us uneasy. But I don't think it was thrown away at all. I think that gray substance is going to be the answer to everything. It's going to be the reason the silos exist in the first place. Here's what I think happened. I believe Charlotte's team was sent in to deal with some kind of experimental technology, something connected to nanotechnology, and I think it went wrong in front of her. She saw something no one was supposed to survive seeing, and that's exactly why the show has been building her up as someone carrying a secret too heavy to speak about. The official synopsis for this episode tells us that Charlotte makes a life-changing decision, and I don't think that decision is small. I think she's going to be forced to choose between staying silent forever or telling someone, maybe even Daniel, exactly what she saw out there. And once that secret is out, I don't think it can be put back in the box. There's also the promotional image that's been circulating for this episode, and it shows Charlotte holding onto something while she talks with Daniel. The way she's positioned, the way her face looks in that moment, it feels heavy. It feels like a confession scene. I think this is the moment where Charlotte either tells Daniel what she saw, or she's offered something in return for her silence. Maybe both happen at once. Maybe Daniel is the one who makes her an offer, a place inside a silo, in exchange for her keeping quiet about the Grey Goo forever. If that's the trade being made here, then I think we're watching the exact moment where good people start making terrible compromises because the alternative feels worse. I also can't shake the feeling that this ties directly into Per Stenson and whatever he's really building underground. We already know he's obsessed with the idea that the end of the world is coming and that it cannot be stopped, only survived. If this Grey Goo technology is what actually causes the extinction event, then Stenson isn't just building shelters out of fear of nuclear war or climate collapse anymore. He's building them because he knows with certainty exactly how humanity is going to destroy itself. And if he knows that, it changes everything about how desperate and calculated his actions have been this entire season. He's not guessing. He's preparing for something he has already seen the beginning of. The Before Time storyline has been a slow burn for a few episodes now, but I think Grey Goo is where it finally speeds back up. We already know that Daniel and Helen are heading toward wherever Per Stenson has been trying to take them. And I believe this episode is where they finally arrive and finally understand what all of this has really been about. I think Stenson sits Daniel down and tells him plainly that the end of the world cannot be stopped, only survived, and that everything he has built so far, the drills, the tunnels, the secrecy, all of it exists for one single purpose: to give a small number of people a chance to live through what's coming. This is where I think Daniel's invention becomes crucial. Remember, Daniel was praised for saving New Orleans because he created a drilling technology that could tunnel through the ground without disturbing the soil above it. I think that technology is exactly what makes the silos possible. Without a way to dig deep enough and quietly enough to avoid detection, none of this construction could happen in secret. I think this episode shows us the moment where Daniel realizes his own invention, something he built to help people, is about to become the backbone of an underground survival project on a scale he never imagined. That has to be a gut punch for him. He wanted purpose in his life after feeling lost as a congressman, and now he's about to get more purpose than he ever asked for. I also think this is the episode where Daniel starts to change sides. Up until now, he and Helen have mostly been trying to uncover the truth and expose what Stenson is doing. But once you're told the world is actually ending, and there is real proof behind that claim, I think self-preservation kicks in fast. I think Daniel is going to start seeing Stenson not as a villain to expose, but as someone offering him and the people he loves a way to survive. I could see him getting offered a role in building the actual rules that govern the silos, maybe even the pact itself. Or something even bigger, like having his mind used as the base for the algorithm that will run everything for generations. If that's true, then everything Juliet battles against in the present timeline traces directly back to a choice Daniel makes in this exact episode. And then there's Helen. I still believe she ends up inside Silo 18 as one of the very first residents, and I think that lanyard we've seen tied to her is proof of it. But I think there's a twist coming. I believe Helen is going to be the one person who struggles the most with staying silent about what she's seen. She's shown us all season that she has a strong moral compass, and I don't think that changes just because the world is ending. I think she becomes a threat to the secrecy of the whole project. And that's exactly why I believe she ends up on some kind of memory-suppressing medication. The very same kind we've seen poisoning the water supply in the present-day silo. It would explain why she looks calm, almost distant, holding onto a stranger for support as she walks into her new home. She's not at peace. She's been quieted. Now let's talk about Juliet, because I think this episode is where the mystery of Silo 17 finally starts to crack open. A theory has been going around that the algorithm somehow faked the voice on the radio, disguising itself to sound like Patty Kennedy just to manipulate Juliet. I understand why people are drawn to that idea. It would be a chilling twist, but I don't buy it. I think it's simpler and scarier than that. I think Patrick Kennedy and Lucas actually made it into Silo 17 alive. And I think this episode shows them coming face to face with Solo and the children who have been surviving down there this entire time. We already got a glimpse of Solo in the trailer, so I think it's safe to assume he plays a real part in this episode, not just a background flash. My guess is that Solo has access to an old radio system, something he's kept working through sheer stubbornness and survival instinct, and that's how contact gets made. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe Lucas is using his own helmet equipment, the same gear that was originally said to be unable to reach anyone. Either way, I think we finally get a real conversation between the survivors of Silo 17 and the people fighting inside Silo 18, and I think what gets discussed is going to be terrifying. I expect them to talk about the drones, the ones that chased Lucas and Patrick and fired on them the moment they stepped outside. I don't think Solo or the children even know what a drone is. I think they'll describe them the only way they can, as flying machines that hunt and shoot. And that description alone should be enough to make Juliet realize just how far the algorithm is willing to go to protect its secrets. But here's the question that's been sitting with me since the last episode. Why did the algorithm lie? It told Camille that Lucas and Patrick wouldn't be a problem anymore, as if they were already dead. But it knew they weren't. That's not a small detail. That's a massive crack in the algorithm's credibility. And I think this episode is going to widen that crack. I think the divide between Juliet and Camille grows even sharper here. Because Juliet now has proof that the very system Camille has been protecting is capable of lying directly to her face. I also think Lucas and Patrick, now inside Silo 17, are going to start piecing together where the safeguard protocol and its poison actually came from. Either through something Solo tells them, or through what they find exploring the ruins around them. Either way, I think this episode plants the seed that brings Silo 17 and Silo 18 crashing together before the season ends. Out of everything happening this season, the story between Sims and Camille might be the one I'm most invested in. And I think Grey Goo is where it turns from tense to dangerous. What's made the storyline so good is the role reversal. Sims used to be the cold, calculating one, doing whatever the system asked without question. Now he's the one putting his family first, refusing to just follow orders blindly. And it's made him a genuinely likable character for the first time in the show. Meanwhile, Camille has slid the other way. She's become colder, more controlled by fear of what happens if the safeguard protocol is triggered. And I think that fear is about to make her do something she'll regret. At the end of the last episode, Camille locked Sims away, claiming she just wanted somewhere private to talk. I don't buy that explanation, and I don't think Juliet will either. I think Camille knows exactly what she's doing. She knows Sims isn't going to change his mind, and she knows that if he's left free, he could interfere with her plans or accidentally trigger the very safeguard protocol she's desperate to prevent. So I think she keeps him locked up, not to protect him, but to protect her own plan, and that's a devastating shift for their relationship. The algorithm has already threatened her directly, reminding her that the safeguard cannot be stopped and pointing to the footage from Silo 17 as proof of what happens to people who resist. Camille has seen what's coming, and I think she's terrified enough to sacrifice her own marriage to prevent it. I still believe Sims is heading toward a tragic end this season. Locking her own husband away is a massive line for Camille to cross, and once you cross a line like that, there's usually no walking it back. I think this episode is where their relationship stops being about disagreement and starts being about real, physical danger. Sims wants to protect his family by fighting the system. Camille wants to protect her family by obeying it. Both of them think they're doing the right thing, and I think that's exactly what makes this so tense to watch. Somebody is going to get hurt because of this decision, and I don't think it's going to wait until the finale to happen. The final major piece of this episode centers on Knox and his father Gus, and I think this is where a lot of loose threads from earlier in the season finally start tying together. From the moment Gus was introduced as having supposedly died, I never believed it. It felt too convenient. Too much like a setup for a bigger reveal later. And sure enough, he turned out to be alive. Now the synopsis tells us Knox is about to find out a secret his father has been hiding, and I think that secret connects directly to something Gus built for Ed Harwood. Here's my theory. I think Gus created some kind of device or system that made it possible for someone, likely Glenda, to move between mechanical and the minds in an impossibly short window of time. Something like 10 minutes, a gap that shouldn't be physically possible under normal circumstances. I don't know the exact mechanics of it yet, but I think it's tied to the missing light bulbs from Critical Supply, a mystery that's been quietly sitting in the background for a few episodes now. I think Gus's invention is the missing link that explains how someone could be stealing supplies and covering their tracks at the same time. There was also a small detail earlier in the season about someone being sent to the mines over something called a theoretical relic, referred to almost jokingly as magic. I don't think that was a throwaway line. I think Gus's invention is exactly the kind of thing that could look like magic to someone who doesn't understand how it works. Maybe even something that manipulates video footage or creates the illusion that a person is in two places at once. If I'm right about this, then Knox is about to learn that his father isn't just a man with a hidden past. He's a man whose skills have been quietly enabling corruption inside the silo for who knows how long. That's a heavy thing for a son to process, especially one who has spent the whole season trying to do the right thing by everyone around him. I think this storyline pulls focus away from Paul Billings for an episode. And honestly, I think that's the right call. Paul's story can wait. Right now, the show needs to explain how someone has been getting away with stealing critical supplies without detection. And I think Gus is the answer. So those are my main theories heading into Silo Season 3 Episode 8. Grey Goo. Charlotte is carrying a secret that could unravel everything Stenson has built. Daniel is about to be pulled fully into the world he once tried to expose. Juliet is closing in on the truth about Silo 17. Camille has crossed a line with Sims that can't be uncrossed. And Knox is about to learn that his father has been hiding more than just his own survival. What do you think is actually going to happen? Let me know your own theories in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns like this one, the full playlist for Silo Season 3 is right below this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.